Dr. Miller, we often get asked about the particular details of our 5-stage inclusivity roadmap. So could you elaborate on that?
Yes, absolutely. So the 5-stage inclusivity roadmap really is a guide that assists organizations in understanding where they are in their journey to inclusion. It starts with developing your diversity, equity, and inclusion team, and what are some of the tips, strategies, insights that you need to understand in terms of budget, resources, policies, and practices that you might encounter in developing that. It looks at assessing the organizational metrics and really cultivating goals and steps according to those metrics, using our BiasSync tools and assessments along the way to guide you and inform your strategic plan and goals, really implementing those goals and evaluating throughout the process and reevaluating and realigning your goals and strategies based on the information that you collect along the way. That inclusivity roadmap looks at all of those 5 stages, assesses where you're currently at, and then helps you to build strategic practices that can guide and further enhance inclusivity for your organization and for your employees.
And I want to add that it has some best practices. It's not just a list and a checklist, but it has best practices, and organizations, no matter where they are on their journey, have found benefit because there are pieces, for example, in stage 1 that they may not have thought about, even though they view themselves as pretty far along, right, and pretty sophisticated. So maybe you can talk about that as well.
Absolutely. Although we have lined it out as a linear process in terms of you will see step 1, step 2, step 3. It is not a linear journey to inclusion. We know that. And so organizations really have to take a moment to assess where they're currently at, but really look both behind and forward to see what are some of the practices that we maybe weren't able to implement at this time or that we'd like to consider for the future. When they are doing that, we do provide insights to what are some important considerations that others that have done this work for many years, our social science PhDs, our very veteran clients might advise along the way. And so it is not just that checklist, it indeed does have insights that are valuable to inform your practices along the way.
So I want to add that as part of our inclusivity roadmap, we also include a step-by-step process on how to conduct an equity audit. And this is really looking at equity in terms of your procedures, your policies, your practices in the organization, and across the pivotal key points in an employee's journey through an organization, starting with recruitment. So perhaps you could tell us a little bit more about the step-by-step equity audit.
Yes. So different than a survey where you deploy that to your employees and they rate on a scale how much they feel equity. So it's their perception, if you will, or experience of equity in the organization. This is where you take inventory. You look at the tangible archetypes, artifacts, practices, infrastructure within your organization, and know where you are in terms of if you're employing equitable measures, if you're somewhat employing equitable measures, if you're not quite there yet, and any steps along the way. So we start with our 8 touchstone framework. As you mentioned, we'll start at the beginning of the organizational life cycle at recruitment, and we take the organizational stakeholders through recruitment, hiring, compensation, performance evaluation, training and development, promotion, retention, etc., and ask them to really take a look at the steps within each one of those organizational life cycles and take inventory of what's occurring there. Now, we provide a checklist to help guide you, and we provide a score sheet. So our stakeholders will have the ability to assess, yes, I'm doing this. No, I'm not. Actually, this is not really applicable to our organization, or, we're kind of in process here. We're somewhat achieving this, but we have somewhere to go. We have a little bit of growth yet still ahead of us. In each one of those steps, we also provide a reflective prompt for our stakeholders to consider how equitable are they in this process and any notes that they might want to add. Now, our equity audit is extremely comprehensive, so our clients can expect a document that is well over 70 pages to guide them through each and every one of the organizational life cycles. Now, that can be overwhelming. So I do say to clients, don't feel like you have to do the entire equity audit all at once. You might, based on some of our other BiasSync analytics, choose to pick a very specific focus area in your organizational life cycle to look at first.